Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Luke Henry, after kicking Monarch's ass to the depths of space, is back on Earth, and now he's looking to save the world from the Fourth World Foundation. Sure, he had help from Penumbra before, but she's not helping him this time. He's got to face it on his own. Look at these four people. He's coming for a villain known as Adonis. He'll do it. You'll be there. Back it now. First Man 2, Learning Curve.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And we're doing what we do, which is we talk with creators about their crowdfunded campaigns. We talk about comics. We talk about whatever the chat leads us to. I hope you like my new office. I've been rearranging things all day today to get it just right. Because you've seen the last one. It was a mess. This one's much nicer. I'm upgrading. Wait till you see my warehouse. I got one of those coming up too. You'll like it. Tonight, let me speak up so you can hear me. Tonight we have Andy Smith with us tonight with First Man. I'm really excited to talk about this one because First Man, takes me back to for most of you guys in the chat when you were kids getting into comics. For me, I was in my late 20s and enjoying the Image Revolution. So let's not waste any more time and get right to it. Andy, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Always glad to do it. Let me bring up this little background here that reminds everybody what we're doing here tonight and who you are and all that good stuff. Wow. So what's it like going into crowdfunding after, going the pro route for so long?
It's fun. It's exciting. It's just a new adventure, I guess. It's nice having all the control over everything for once, but at the same time, it's a lot more work because you're the guy that helms the ship. You're definitely you're the captain of the ship. When you're doing stuff, or when I was doing stuff for Marvel and DC, I guess I would be one of the crew, I guess. So I had my task, which most of the time was just penciling or penciling, inking my own work. And that was the task at hand. And, even with the internet and being able to email and talk to people, I still didn't really talk to anybody else. I mean, I might talk to the writer every now and then, but I didn't really talk with the letterer or with the colorist. And when you're doing your own thing, you're coordinating it all. And I'm one of the guys that, some guys do everything. They write it, pencil, ink, color, letter, whole shebang. I co-write it with a buddy of mine, and I should give him the lion's share because we basically throw around plot ideas and then he runs with it. But then I have a good buddy of mine do the lettering, guy I went to art school with. I work with the colorist, so it's me getting the pages to her and, getting them back and reviewing them and any revisions. It's me dealing with the printer and looking at proofs. So, and then obviously too, it's not like I have a sales team like companies do in marketing. So I reach out to gracious people like yourself to get on their streams and promote the project. So
believe me, we're all fans doing this. We're glad to have people like you come on. This is like going to cons for free.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and that's what I've kind of enjoy as well.
is because I have my own channel and I do a morning show and I talk to people, daily, and you see a lot of the same, faces, names and whatnot. You get to know them, and I think that's really fun to be able to do that on a regular basis and not just 5 or 6 times a year at a convention.
Sure. I think when we finally, and we really are getting back to convention now. I see so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that continues and builds up. I think when we finally start going, though, people need to get shirts like mine here, and just have a badge of your avatar, so that we talk with so many people on Twitter and on YouTube that when you go to convention, say, hey, it's me. Abominable Grizzly's in the chat. He's like, hey, it's me, Abominable Grizzly. You remember me? He's like, this, remember this? Oh yeah, that's you. I remember you.
Yeah, it's either that or it's wear a name tag that says your screen name. So.
Exactly. Nicholas Greer is also in the chat. Says, check out the Relentless Tin Soldier to see the Andy Smith print. Thanks again for that, Andy.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the other side of this whole crowdfunding business that sprung up. Is not so much the model of making the comic and getting it out, which is a huge undertaking, but
sure.
It's the and I've said this frequently on different streams. It's the way that the community, I don't want to say community, the businessmen interact with each other in a form of interdependent support.
Right.
And I've used the example in the past. If it was 1967 in the DC offices, and you're in Julius Schwartz's office, and the phone rings, and he picks it up, and on the other end, it's like, Julie, hey, it's Stan. Hey, listen, we're kicking around this Spider-Man idea here, and I wanted to pick your brain. Hello. That stuff wouldn't happen then. It was, right. You wanted your competition to fail, but with the crowdfunders, you do something with this crowdfunder, they do something with you, you both do something for somebody else, and it's this rising tide that is raising all these boats.
Well, I was talking about that with last night, I believe, and it's true, because when you're an artist or creator working for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, whoever, people might say, "Oh, there's no competition." That's a bunch of crap. There's competition because there's only so many books they put out, only so many jobs. So you're always obviously wanting to do your best work, but you're always like, "Oh, who's the new guy?" Or even is it a peer of mine? Whatever, I want to get that gig. Whereas with this, there's a lot of us doing it now. But we all talk about each other's campaigns because they're all different genre type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got somebody doing a pirate thing, somebody doing a sci-fi thing, horror and stuff like that. And granted, there's stuff like that in mainstream comics as well. But once again, if a big publisher's putting it out under their umbrella, it's the competition thing. But I'm doing this myself. I don't feel like competition with Ethan because he's doing his thing and I'm doing mine. And Ethan's helped promote me and it's helped me out. And, I mentioned him, but, granted, he's a much bigger name, has a much bigger presence. So, if he mentions me to 10 people, 7 people might go, "Who's that?" and go look. Where 3 already know. Whereas if I mention him to 10 people, 1 person, maybe 2 might go, "Who's that?" You know what I mean? Because he just has that bigger presence. But that's the thing. There's all these variations of us in here. Like, I don't think I have a big presence, but I've seen other people who look at me like, "Wow, you've got a good presence." You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, cool. So it all helps just kind of spreading the word and stuff.
Oh, sure. But in a way, it's almost like all the crowdfunded people are working for this invisible umbrella publishing house. There's no real leadership, but you're, for instance, if somebody saw that you had something on your campaign that you'd added on there, it's real easy for them to say, "Hey, I would like to do something for my campaign similar to that. How did you come around to do that? Who'd you get?"
Right.
And you'll tell them. It's not like, "Oh, well, that's a trade secret. We have proprietary information, blah, blah, blah. I can't reveal that to you. Figure it out on your own." everybody's just kind of helping everybody, and it's cool to see that happen.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Oh man, there was something else on the tip of my tongue while you were talking that I was going to mention along those lines,
I
but
do that to people all the time.
no, it's my brain. It's one of the things I've noticed with having I say this and I hear other people say it and I go, I wonder if that's true. But I do have ADHD, and unfortunately my daughter has it because of me, worse than I do. So I feel bad for her. But with ADHD, your mind's just going and a thought comes in, and unless you throw it out there, it's usually like, and now I'm moving on to the next thought. So it'll come back to me.
Well, obviously you chose to go into comics at some point in your life. When did you when did you realize that you had a talent for this art thing, and wanted to make something out of it?
Pretty early on, like every kid. I like to say every kid likes to draw. Around 2, 3 years old, they pick up a pencil. It's a way to communicate. And then some kids, once they actually can communicate in other ways, are like, yeah, I'm done with this. They just lose interest. But people like myself, and I think this is for any creative, whether it's writing or whatever, we just keep doing it because it's something inside of us that we just have to do. And so I did that. I drew all through elementary school. And then at some point when I was 11 or 12, I remember seeing Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and being like, oh my God, that's so cool. And at that point, I wanted to start drawing, people, superheroes instead of just cars. Cause I love cars, Matchbox cars. Now I'm into, I don't own a sports car, but I still have a passion for cars. So I did it. It's like this switch flipped and I was like, I want to draw that stuff. And then I discovered comic books and I was like, oh my God, I want to draw comics for a living. Cause it's not like this was early 80s. There were no computers around. I mean, not for personal use.
Yeah.
So I know, you talk to young people now and they just go, oh, I thought computers did it. But back then you knew somebody had to do it. Even just reading the names in the credits, you knew that under penciler or artist, it was somebody drawing something. It wasn't, today you could see that and just think, oh, that just means something they're doing on the computer. But so it was like 1982, 83. And I just became singularly focused on just wanting to do this. So that's pretty much what I went after.
We have a question in the chat from Nick Greer. He wants to know how the Creators Universe trading cards came about. I know Penumbra was a part of it.
Yeah, Nick Barucci, the owner, president of Dynamite Entertainment, he created those back in the day. That was one of his first ventures, I think, in the early 90s. And he was just going to different creators and saying, hey, I want to put this card set together with your own characters. So Creators Universe. And I can't remember how many cards are in the set. And I do have a full set because they sent us all one. Maybe 100. I don't recall how many are in it. And it's nice. It's in a binder and everything they put together. And I remember talking to Bart Sears, a good friend of mine, about it. And I was talking to him one day and he was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. So I reached out to Nick and said, if you have any slots left open, I'd love to contribute. And he was like, yeah, go ahead. And I was like, well, how many? And he's like, you can do 2. That's cool. So I actually did Apollo and Penumbra. And, he just got so many requests. He's like, man, I'm just going to be able to use one. And I got it. I was still really new to the business. I think I was only like 2 years into the business. And he was getting these other guys that have been in the business a lot longer and bigger names too. So it's not like everybody got one. I know Bart had 3 in the set. Some people had 2. Some people like myself had 1. I was just honored to be in the set. Yeah. So that's how it came about. And I had a buddy of mine ink it. And I think he might have, I think my friend that inked it might have colored it. Either that or I sent up a color guide and Nick had it colored. I don't remember that. but I did have a friend ink, and it was Penumbra. So he chose the chick, so that's good.
Well, of course, we know it sells.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Fleer cards that came out in the 90s with the X-Men, all the X-Men trading cards that were out there?
Oh, yeah.
That's something I keep looking. Everyone who's doing cards with their crowdfunding, I keep sitting and saying, yeah, that's great. You're doing it wrong. Because you keep forgetting the one thing that was important about collectible cards, and that was the chase. And so, it's like, hey, Biden, here's the complete set of, 7 cards. I would love to see, guys like you and Ethan just put together like a 3x3 grid. Because remember, when you put them in the page, if you got 9 of them sequentially, it made one picture of the 9 characters in one big battle scene.
Yeah.
I would love to see, that happen with crowdfunding, where 9 different creators say, hey, we're going to have one person draw like a 3x3 grid of all our characters, and my card's going to come with my campaign, and your card's going to go with your campaign, and people are going to realize, oh, I've got to go back all 9 of these campaigns to get all 9 of these cards. So
yeah, that'd be cool. That's a really good idea. I'll have to mention that and take credit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
No, that's a really good idea. Well, another thing that I would love to see, and that idea is actually something I think could get accomplished, because, you have one guy, on a piece of paper, lay the whole thing out. And then the great thing about digital stuff and email is he could email it to everybody, and then basically, okay, fill in your character. Kind of like you see people take to conventions jam pieces where they have one person lay out the whole jam piece rough, and then they take it to, and I've been a part of some, they take it to different people and be like, hey, I want you to draw that character. And you're like, okay. And you just draw right over the layout and make it your own. So that's something that could actually be done. What I would really love to see is, or be a part of, is what Image did, and they never finished it. And this was probably a decade ago now. Remember Image United, where they had, I think it was Eric laid the whole thing out. Eric Larson laid the whole thing out. It's going to be 6 issues. I think only 3 came out in a 0 issue. And then, so Eric would lay the whole book out. And one of the hardships behind it was they were all drawing on the actual page. They had to mail the pages around to everybody, which made it difficult. But, if like Eric would draw Savage Dragon and the whole page is laid out, he'd send it to Silvestri. Silvestri would draw Witchblade, whoever else was on the page. Shoot it to Valentino, Shadowhawk, over to Liefeld so he can do Youngblood, to Todd to draw Spawn, and then it gets back and has to get, and that is super difficult. Doing it that way. Now, if Eric would have just laid it out and then sent a scan to everybody, it would have been a lot easier, but obviously the finished art wouldn't have been as cool because there would never be one full page. But I mean, I think a mini comic, because none of us have time to go, oh yeah, let's do a 22-page book that way. But I think a mini comic like that with First Man, Cyberfrog, John Malin has so many characters he could pick whichever one, and then some of the other stuff, Graham Nolan, pick some other guys, 5 or 6 guys. It'd be cool to do like a mini comic that way, where one guy says, okay, we all think about a plot, somebody writes it, another guy does the layouts for it all, and then once again just shoot it around digitally for us to draw our character in to for the final page. And then you have it all colored by the same guy, lettered of course by the same guy, and just do one issue of 12 pages or something. And just you could even do it where it's part of one person's campaign, or everybody could make it everybody who worked on it could make it part of their campaign. In a way. I don't know.
And with something, like with all caps, that's making that a lot more feasible, because, you've got people who you literally do have an umbrella in that position now where there's an imprint on the books. I know Image was an imprint as well, but you really had to shake the universe to get characters to unite, because it wasn't like Marvel was, where Spider-Man will be in his book and swinging along, and suddenly, hey, it's snowing. Well, that doesn't matter. I've still got to go after the bad guy. And then you get the editor's box says, want to know why it's snowing? Go see Thor number whatever it is, where he's fighting the ice goddess, because, shared universe had an impact across the books.
Exactly. But yeah, so yeah, something like that could be cool. I love stuff like that. The closest I've gotten is for Ominous Press a few years back when we tried bringing it back. There was three going to be 3 books: Giant Killers, Dread Gods, and Demigod. And we did, Bart was going to draw Giant Killers, Tom Rainey, Dread Gods, myself, Demigod, and we did a triptych poster.
I love those.
Where the background was continuous, and Tom drew his portion, Bart drew his portion, and I drew my portion. And we each drew our own backgrounds, but they, where they met up, we made them so it worked together. And then there was a base at the bottom that went across the whole thing to unify it all. And we had one person color it all. And it was so cool,
I think the first time I ever saw that done in comics was when they introduced the Justice League Detroit, and they did the 4 issues. And I was like, I got the second one. I'm like, that looks like it. Look at that. And I got the third one, like, I wonder if, oh no, it doesn't fit. Wait, it goes under here. And then I got excited because I was 14. It was just a big thing for me.
Yeah.
We have not brought the screen up here, and we should. It's been 22 minutes now. So, RJ's got to get on stick here. So great campaign here. I mean, almost 300% funded. 5,000. And, this is your 4th campaign. So I've missed 3 of your campaigns. So this is nothing new to you.
No. Well, the first 2 were just in-demand things that I pulled over from Kickstarter. So this is technically my 2nd campaign on just Indiegogo. And, the first one was volume 1. So
okay. And volume 1 was, what had already gone to Image back in the day, if I'm remembering right, or did you make changes to that?
Oh, I made tons of changes. Because volume 1 at Image, when it first came out at Image, it was just a regular size comic. And now it's 64 volume 1, 64 pages. I still had all the original art. So I went in, rescanned it all. I redrew some stuff throughout the story because, it was so long ago. I wanted to update some drawings that I didn't like. I had the whole thing recolored. I had the whole thing rescripted by the guy that did the scripting on the first one, Rob Snyder. He's back along for the ride. And I said, dude, I want this whole thing rescripted because I want it to go in a different direction. So he rescripted the whole thing. So it's only a third of the actual book for volume 1.
I want to remind viewers and let the watchers on the rewatch know that, while we're talking here, the link to this campaign is right below the video. So very first line, you're welcome to click on it any time. It won't take you away from the video. You'll still be able to hear Andy talk here. And get out there and back first, man.
Yes, please. So close to the next stretch goal. So.
Oh, yeah. Just what? Another 200 and, let me do this math.
$214. I was going to say, you're going to make me do hard math. Yep, 214.
No, every one of them carries.
That's right. 214, and we get to the metal bookmark. A bookmark made out of metal. Comes in a nice little plastic sleeve, and it could also double as a weapon. So you could carry it with you, and if somebody tries to attack you, you could pull it out and slice their throat. So, it's multi-use.
Remember the metal rulers we used to have in grade school? Or
yeah,
high school?
It's like that. And and you can throw it in the dishwasher and clean it and get all the DNA of the blood off of the perp you just took down that tried to attack you. Just saying.
Yeah,
I like to give things that are multi-purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit, catch me up, because I don't know everything about every comic. I've only been reading them for 50 years. I'm 54. Yeah, I was reading comics at 4 years old. I grew up in Sparta, Illinois, which at the time was where every comic in the world was printed. So yard sales in my LCS, everybody who worked there just brought home the overruns. So
that's cool. I remember them being printed out there. I do remember that.
It was awesome. I mean, I learned to read before kindergarten because of Superman and Batman comics.
Was it one company doing it or
World Color Press?
Yeah.
They printed DC and Marvel and Playboy and TV Guide. I mean, it was just everything. Magazine was just that one location for the longest time in the 70s. And I think that the first time that they were doing the independents too, because like I was 13 or 14. The first time, my dad brought home, he didn't work there, but he had friends that did, and he knew I read them. Brought home a big old handful of comics. I'm like, yes, you've been somewhere. So I'm like, Batman, Superman, Batman, Justice League, New Teen Titans, and then American Flag. What's this American Flag thing? What's this Mystic thing? Who is PC and AC and all these? There's other companies other than DC and Marvel. When did that happen?
I know.
So my world just got shattered and expanded all at one point.
Sure.
But yeah, I've been reading a long time. So tell me about Luke Henry and how he becomes First Man, because a lot of people, they might not come from the 90s background.
Oh, no, I hear you. Well, and it's changed since back then, because you never really learned it. You didn't learn any of that in that one that came out in 97. You didn't learn any of it. Luke Henry is a college kid. He's 18, goes to NYU, and basically First Man, one, to give the elevator pitch using things people know. I like to say you take a bowl, you take a little Spider-Man, Peter Parker, dump it in. It's that type of humor. You take Shazam in regards to Billy Bats and Captain Marvel, because Luke Henry transforms into this guy. He doesn't always look like that. Throw that in, and then you take some Captain Marvel, Jim Starlin cosmic goodness, chuck that in as well, mix it around, and that's First Man. So basically, Luke Henry is inhabited by this essence, and there's these 10 essences that were spread throughout, and this kind of encapsulates Volume 1 to an extent. There's these 10 essences that are spread throughout the universe. Each essence inhabits a different being on a different planet, and that being is kind of safeguarding it, even though they don't really know that it's inside of them. So it's not like a Green Lantern thing where, you get the ring, you're like, I got this power now. They just have it. They were chosen for a reason. They inhabit this essence. This big bad named Monarch comes along, who had a brother at one point, and his brother was the inhabitor of one of these essences. So he ends up killing him to get it for himself. And he realizes that if he can collect all 10, he'll become the most powerful. And he just gets more powerful as it goes along. So he comes to Earth looking for the last one that Luke Henry has. And Penumbra is along with, Penumbra's the female character. Monarch's the big purple guy on the cover of the first one. And Penumbra, the female, comes along with him because, no spoilers, but she has a specific tie to the essence that inhabits Luke Henry. So she has kind of her own agenda in the whole thing as well, story as well. And, as this trailer shows, he does end up defeating Monarch in the first one. And then this story picks up with Luke Henry coming back to Earth, and it's called Learning Curve because he has to learn with these newfound powers how to be a hero, how to juggle college, and he lives at home with his mom and dad, who are the only other two people that know what his secret is. So, and then the conflict in this book is there's this company in New York called the Fourth World Foundation that discovers First Man because he's not, he's trying to be a hero. So he's being seen in public doing nice things, whatever. And they see him and they're intrigued by him and his power. And they create this being called Adonis. And they want to use First Man because they don't obviously know his alter ego or anything. They want to use First Man for not the best reasons. So they're trying to maybe, you could say, pull a fast one on him. And that's where the conflict comes in. What's up, Comic Talk? What is up?
Pops Van Zant in the chat, resting up from CromCon last weekend.
Oh.
So that's an interesting twist on a character here. The fact that that he's a teenager and his parents know he's a superhero.
Yep.
Because everyone else is like, oh, I've got to change before Aunt May walks in, or in the case of Tim Drake, he had to keep it secret from his father for so long, and when they do find out, they get killed. So I would sit there and how did you write your way around parents allowing children to put themselves into mortal danger?
Well, I mean, he's 18, so
well, he's
yeah. I mean, there is that. He doesn't really have he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. I mean, I guess if I wanted, he could do like well, it's not Billy. Okay, so it's not. When I say Shazam, it's really just from the standpoint of the physical change. It's not a different mind. No, it's not really a different mind than Captain Marvel's Shazam either, because when he's Shazam, or when he's the adult, he still talks like Billy Batson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got these powers and he wants to use them for good, and he's not just going to sit there and be like, oh, look, crap's going down. Well, I know I could turn into this 7-foot buff badass, but I'm not going to, so he just wants to use them for good. And I think, his parents see that. And instead of saying, you can't do that, you could get killed, they're more like, well, you got these powers and you could pull that line from Spider-Man. Well, with great powers comes, great responsibility. So go do something with yourself, but finish school and get a degree, pal.
Yes.
So.
But I've always loved the transformative heroes. You talk about Shazam, and then there was like, Ultraman, Thor. Thor would be so much more interesting to me if they went back to the whole I'm Don Blake, boom, now I'm Thor.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked that too. Those are the ones there weren't that many of them, I should say, when I was growing up. But you could say, the Steve Rogers and even, Clark Kent, because they really tried to do a different persona when they weren't their hero persona.
Sure.
So it wasn't a huge physical change, but it was still a change, with Luke, when he becomes First Man, some of the humor in the book will come from how he speaks, because some of the dialogue is him when he's First Man imagining what a hero would speak like, because he doesn't want to come across like an 18-year-old kid, So some of the dialogue that's being written for him when he first encounters these Fourth World guys is, I think it's fun, because he's just trying to put on this air about him. And at one point, one of the Fourth World members, cracks a joke like, is he seriously talking this way, to somebody else, because there's a scene, and it's not on any of the preview pages here, but there is a scene when he first meets these Fourth World members where instead of just, he lands on the rooftop, and instead of just like, landing and being casual, he actually kind of strikes a pose. Because he's like, well, I'm a hero. Isn't that what they do? And they even call him out for that as well. Like, are you posing? And it's like, he's what? So that's the type of humor I try to get into it. So it's not like slapstick comedy or anything. It's just more natural with the way Luke Henry tries to personify his hero, person. Sure. When he's his First Man.
I imagine he'd come across sounding quite a bit like the Tick. Hello, fellow citizens, I am here.
Yeah, not so campy though, because when the Tick did it, that was like the Tick, I don't think was trying to act like and I love the Tick stuff. I don't know if he was actually doing that to be like, well, this is how heroes talk. I think that was just the Tick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Luke is like, oh, I've watched movies and stuff. Because in this world, not that I'll probably ever make, flat out mention, but in this world, it's like there are comic books, of course, and there are, superheroes he read as a kid or still reads. Because there's a shot of his bedroom and he's got a long box in there, So he's just picking stuff up from that and from pop culture of how heroes should act.
So aside from Luke and Penumbra and Monarch, this was a world that had no super characters on it. This was
Well, they're not from this world. Like Penumbra and Monarch are not, and Apollo, because there's those three. Because Apollo's different from First Man. They're not from this world. So as of now, not saying that there can't be other heroes on this world, but for Luke Henry, he doesn't know of any. And there's definitely not any that he's known of in New York. Now, with any new creation, of course, like this second storyline, like the first volume 1 was more cosmic space. Volume 2 is more Earth centric with just a little subplot with like Penumbra and Monarch. And then volume 3 kind of brings it back full circle with some of the characters that were in volume 1 to finish off some stuff. So with this one being on Earth, we thought a good way to kind of introduce villains and stuff was with this Fourth World Foundation. And, they didn't create this being known as Adonis as something to counteract First Man. It was created, and I'm not going to give away why it was created, but it was created with, First Man wasn't even in their sights when they were creating this being and what they were trying to create this artificial thing for.
Yeah. They thought
it just so happens that it just so happens it's like this hero is now on the scene, you could say, and he has power. He obviously can fly. He can shoot blasts. He has enormous strength. Who knows what else he can do? And they're like, well, could we use that for something? So they try to draw him in and, befriend him at first. But there's a different intent that they actually have to, form that, once again, I don't want to give away. You'd have to read the book for. But and then from that, of course, other things can be spawned, and you kind of go down the whole Marvel universe path of, well, now there's this hero on site. It's like the Batman thing, Batman, because of him, now there's the Joker, and it's like, oh, the Penguin, and it's like, if you take Batman out of the picture, there was never a Batman. There's never a Joker. There's probably never a Penguin. Never a Riddler. You know what I mean? You'd still have crooks, but they'd be the normal average crooks for the cops, not these over-the-top ones, because, there wasn't that ignition point for them to become that. And now with First Man being on Earth in New York, it could spark an ignition point for other people. And once again, I've established in the first one, there's other worlds out there as well. So even if after this, the threats don't come from Earth, they could easily come from other planets and stuff.
And especially now that there's been a power surge that, probably somebody's noticed this essence. Obviously, certainly Monarch did.
Right.
So that would bring people there. Herwenberg in the chat, thank you. He is our wrench. He's posting the link for everybody in the chat to follow up on here.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate that, man. And if people want to catch up on what's going on here, this very first featured tier here, this is, your the first volume and the second volume. You've got it called 1.2.
But it's volume 1.
It's volume 1. $65 for, that one and this one. They're both going to be, 40 pages each, or?
No, there's 64. The program book, the third book, is a supplemental book that has, it's 40 pages. It's stapled. The main books are square bound because there's 64 pages. The program book is a supplemental book, kind of like a behind the scenes making of the comic. It's 40 pages. The first 15 or so pages feature drawings of First Man by various artists I know in the business, like Adam Hughes, Kevin Nolan, Brian Hitch, Alan Davis, George Perez, and others. And the last 25 pages of the book are the behind the scenes stuff, like page layouts, unused pages. Because there's a couple pages I drew that I was like, nope. And they just didn't make their way into the story. and some character design stuff and things like that. So it's basically I thought program book was a good name for it, because when you go to like a play, you get a program book that tells you about the play, the characters, and stuff like that. And this is the visual version of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's 168 pages for $65. That's gonna be now. These can be signed or.
Yeah, I sign everything.
There you go.
Yeah, I never. It's the first campaign didn't say anything, just like this one doesn't. And then when I was fulfilling, I'm like, there's a Sharpie. It doesn't take long, and because I didn't say it, I think when the people got it, I would like to think that when they got it, they were like, oh crap, he signed him too, with that, because I never said I was going to. So I'm just going to continue that and sign everything.
Well, there's always that one guy out of 100 that says, somebody wrote on my comic, it's no longer mint.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say, if somebody's like that, they can email me and we'll discuss it. But I don't, but actually, no, because then my email will get flooded with, you signed my book, send me one unsigned. And it's like, okay, why is this number the same number as the amount of backers I had? Wait a second. So
this means something.
If you don't want it signed, I guess when we get to the fulfillment stage, you can send me a note that says, don't sign my book. Yeah. I want to get it CGC graded, damn it, and you're devaluing it. So
I never understood people who thought that a signature devalued the book. I mean, I could see it if I signed somebody else's book. But
a good friend of mine, he has said it on his live streams, but I'm still not going to out who it is. But a good friend of mine that's a professional in the business and is also a collector like I am, he does not want his stuff signed. You could bring Jack Kirby back to life and say, hey man, how would you like to have your earliest Kirby Fantastic Four or whatever you have signed by Jack, or Stan Lee for that matter? And he'd go, nope, don't touch it.
Okay, well, I told you, there's always one.
Yeah.
For everybody who's already caught up on First Man, though, this is only $25 for this book, which is pretty standard. But I've seen a lot more that go higher. So 25 is a deal. 46 claimed. That's going to be 50 before the week's out, because you're going to hit that stretch goal, and that's going to get more people interested. What prompted you to, as you're creating this character, to use the name First Man? Because if I had a superhero and his name's First Man, it's like, isn't everybody going to look at him and say, dude, you're like about the 715 billionth man. We've been around a while.
Yeah, I give it to you. That's a really good question, because when I first created Penumbra and Apollo, I was only about 15 or 16 years old. I was playing the Marvel Secret Wars role-playing game, came in a yellow box and stuff. And you create your own character. So being an artist, I created them. And her costume actually pretty much still looks the same from back then. And Apollo originally was the same as First Man. So originally, it's kind of like Apollo is his name, just like Andy's my name. But then if I became a superhero, I'd be like, I'm, Superman. So it's almost like that. It's like Clark is his name. Superman's a superhero name. Apollo's his name. First Man's a superhero name. But when Rob and I went in and re-scripted and really gave a lot of backstory to it for Volume 1 and the stuff we had planned out, Apollo is actually a totally different individual now. And he was Penumbra's lover, soulmate. They were a couple on their planet, and he's kind of out of the picture now. And then this First Man was created within Luke Henry. He changes into him. And when I wanted to do the book back 24 years ago, I just was thinking to myself, I had the guy I work with that does the lettering created the logo for me, but he created a logo for Apollo, Penumbra, and Monarch. And I just, Apollo as the name of a book just didn't do it. It just, one, it's not original. It's, he's a Greek god and stuff. And it just, there's no ring to it. And I honestly cannot remember how I came up with First Man. I just remember kind of like, I guess what most people say. It was one of those moments where I was either driving, because I usually get ideas when I'm driving, or like a lot of people, when I'm just dozing off, stuff will pop into my head. And uh, when I try to remember stuff, instead of doing that thing where I write stuff down, because it's not like tons of ideas pop into my head, but if something pops in my head right when I'm falling asleep, if I take, this is just weird, and I saw this somewhere and I started doing it and it works for me. If I take something next to my bed and just kind of throw it on the floor, when I wake up in the morning, it'll remind me what I was thinking about when I see it. It's weird.
That's an
but
interesting. It's a sort of like an indirect mnemonic device.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you meet somebody, and a lot of people do this. They'll meet somebody, and it's like, oh, Andy, this is RJ. RJ, this is Andy, and I might say back to you, oh, it's nice to meet you, RJ. And realistically, I'm saying it out loud so I remember.
Yeah.
Because at least with me, if I don't do that, good chance I won't remember. Just because literally stuff goes in and out so quick with my ADHD that I either have to repeat it or put something with it, with the initials, something. So same thing, First Man just came to me and I was like, man, that just sounds pretty freaking cool. So I told I asked my letterer guy, I said, could you make up a logo? And it's First Man, and it's not spelled out. It's one ST man. And I want to say that he hit it right out of the park with the logo you see. I don't think there were variations on it. I think that was it. And I was just like, that's it. Because I wanted, the other thing too, you don't see this that much in comics anymore, but, I went to the Kubert School in the late 80s, graduated in 91. And if you looked at all the comics from the Silver Age and, 80s and even 90s, one of the things is with the logo is you want to have a bold logo that you can read from 3 to 4 feet away.
Yes.
When it's on the stands. Because comics are racked, on top of each other like that. So you want to be able to read the logo because that's all you see. That's why the logo is the top third. So it's always a rule of thumb, bold logo, you want to be able to read it from 3 to 4 feet away. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And now you see comics that have like some, cursive font. And you're like, man, I can't read that when I'm holding it. How am I supposed to read it from a few feet away?
Yeah.
Don't get artsy. I guess there is because every rule is meant to be broken. You've probably heard that before.
Sure.
And, Joe Kubert would say, when you sign your name, when you sign your artwork, make it legible. Because you want somebody to look at it and go, man, this is great art. Who did it? Oh, Joe Kubert. Because you can read Joe's signature. But here's the funny thing, and I didn't realize this until years later. I had Joe actually sign a comic for me. And he signed it. It's not the way he signs artwork where it says Joe Kubert. It's signed. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. But I didn't say that. I was just like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you have a signature.
It's the same with George Perez.
Signature.
Yeah, it's the same with George Perez. I had George Perez sign some stuff for me once. Doesn't look like what he does when he signs art. So the point I was making is my signature, you can basically make out. So I do an A, and I cross the A with the S, and then I do MITH. Then I do MITH with the year behind it. And I've been doing it so long, people recognize it. But then you have a signature like Bill Sienkiewicz, which you can't read.
Sure.
But if you start it one way and you just stay with it, people will obviously recognize and go, oh, it's this. But I don't subscribe to that with a logo, because if it's a brand new product and stuff, you want people to know what it is. You don't want to, and I've seen some logos come out. God, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember this one, but I couldn't read it for the life of me. And this is something from Image in the past few years. And I was just looking at it going, yeah, I don't know what that says. You got so funky with the font you were using or with the designs. It's not even a font at that point. It's the design of the letters. I'm just like, yeah, I got no idea what that title is.
Yeah, and this is something I brought up earlier this week. That when you see a logo, it's not just that you found a font you liked and then you typed and then you made it 128 point and laid it there. These are drawn and designed specifically for that title. Am I wrong on that? I mean, do they come up with fonts that they just type?
Some do, yeah. I mean, look, I'm trying to think. I haven't done that. So because I was trying to think if I've ever done that. And I mean, now for a couple of commercial art jobs I've done outside of comics where, the client's like, oh, I want a fake comic book cover and this is the logo. Yeah, I'll find a cool font and
Sure.
I'll mess with it because they're fine. They're not expecting like, you better come up with something I've never seen. But when I go to, and this is why I don't design logos and I use, my buddy that does it for a living because, that first man's not a font. He designed it, the other projects I've put out that had logos on them, he's designed as well. But yeah, some people just pick some type of font. I mean, there's so many websites out there that have free fonts that you can find something to use as a base. And then my suggestion would be if you're going to use something that's already out there, even if it's a free one, so that means obviously anybody can use it as a base and work off of it to change it slightly, just so somebody that is just in love with fonts doesn't go, oh, yeah, I know what that is. That's a blah, blah, blah. Nice
and
job.
They can make their own logo of your copy and,
yeah.
Easy. The reason I bring that up is because obviously IDW had Arpel O'Neill announced in the Previews magazine this past week. It was supposed to be obviously April O'Neill, and they spelled it ARPIL on the cover. And they're like, oh, it's a typo. And I'm like, no, somebody actually designed it that way. And then, of course, 2 days later, I about fell out of my chair laughing. They're advertising on Twitter for a junior editor. I'm like, yep, somebody lost a job and now they have.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I didn't see that. But you're telling me IDW put in previews a book that had a logo with the word April spelled wrong.
I have it right here. I'll bring it up. That's why.
Because that's not a typo. You don't. A typo is in the solicitation copy. April spelled wrong because the solicitation copy is literally somebody just typing, and a friend of mine was over today. My friend Dennis, that I have my own YouTube channel, Andy Smith. Search it out. Please subscribe to it. Do a daily show at about 8:30 every morning. There's my pitch. And then I do a show called Dennis and Andy where we talk comics and movies and whatnot. And he was writing a tweet and, he juxtaposed two letters. And I was like, yeah, fix that. And you spelled that wrong. And he's like, oops, and that's a typo. But,
yeah.
Yeah, like.
That's the book. And
now, the book itself, did the book have the box around, the red box around?
No, the box was there to highlight the error. Somebody else put the box there on the graphic.
Because it is, so it's ARP, and then is the box covering the I?
Yeah, it is. It's covering the I.
So it's ARPIL. Yeah, I mean, that's, now, I guess, see, that's the thing. It could be a typo because here's why. If that's just a font that they saw and they're like, oh, we like this font and it's free, we don't have to pay anybody for it, then it is a typo because you're literally typing because it's a font. Now, if it's a hand-drawn logo, that's not a typo. Somebody missed that anyhow. That should never have gone out like that.
And that's why this came out on Twitter 2 days later, and I thought it was hilarious. IDW is hiring. Please apply so there can finally be a new junior editor that I can bully. Like, why do you need a new junior editor? Because it could have been a typo in the email that went to whoever they were hiring to do the logo. We need a logo for Arpel O'Neill.
Yeah, I know. But then even at that point, if that was the case, you'd like to think the person would have enough brains, I would, to email back and go, I just want to double check. this is what you want. And even if they didn't, they're still sending in a rough draft. I mean, my guy, I should call him by his name. Steve Dutro was his name. He's been lettering comics for 30 years as well. We both graduated the Kubert School in 91. He's a fantastic letterer. He's worked for everybody. I think he's Eisner nominated or maybe even won. Anyhow, he like the brand of my company is Astonishing Comics, right? And I said, Steve, I need a logo for Astonishing Comics. He sent me like 8 different versions of it. And then I said, ooh, I like this from version 2. I like this from version 5. And I like this from version 8. And he put them together, you know? So if they did do that process with this, that would mean this designer, I would assume, sent like 5 versions of Arpil, whatever her last name is. I already forgot. See how bad I am? I didn't.
You're not a Turtles fan, huh?
Not huge.
I know him, but that's it.
So, well, it's April O'Neil, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I knew it. Sometimes I'd rather say I don't remember instead of getting it wrong. So, but the point is, if that person sends in 5 comps for them to look at, and not one, and there's more than one person looking at this logo. I don't give a crap how small IDW staff might be. There's not just one person who greenlit that logo. There's more people, at least 2, probably 3 or 4. And not one of them was like, man, all 5 of these look kind of cool, but it's spelled wrong. Not one of them said that. So, and just by looking at it, it looks like a font that they just said, you know, instead of hiring, it was probably done in-house. And, you know, there's an in-house designer that was just like, well, this is a cool font. Let's see how this looks. And they were like, yeah, we like it. And then when they actually went to mock up the cover, because if it is just a font, you can just type it out, and typed it out backwards and shot it out the door without anybody looking at it, I guess.
The thing is, R and P aren't even anywhere near each other on a keyboard either. So
no, you're right. And I know how to type. So like, but that's the other thing. Like, it's, you know, you're not that much older than me. When I was in high school, I took a class on typing.
Yeah.
You know, my kid just graduated high school. Not only does she not know how to write in cursive, because God forbid they teach that. Yeah. So when she signs her name, it's print. And I'm just like, well, I guess that's going to have to pass as a signature. And I told her, I said, as long as you do it that same way every time, that's your signature. You know, on her driver's license, I said, she's like, what do I sign? And I said, just write your name. And she did. And I said, from now on, if you have to sign something and you need a reminder, pull out your driver's license and look at it, because that's what people will look at for proof. But this is the freaking computer age. It's been the computer age for 30 freaking years. All her papers were done on the computer. There were no handwritten papers she turned in high school.
Sure.
Not one class on how to type.
And you would think you'd have to take that because you're keyboarding. But no, they're just like they're hunting and pecking.
She hunting and pecks. Not one class.
My teacher would come by, and if he saw you looking at the keyboard or at the keys while you were typing, he'd bring out an 8.5 11 by piece of paper and tape it over your hands.
Yeah.
So you know you had to touch type, and you know you had to remember it wasn't just typing. You had to know to stop at the right place and zip ding that carriage return.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And you know, I learned to type, and you know, I can't type as fast as my wife because you know she's not a receptionist or anything, but her job involves a computer, so she's on it all day. And I mean, like when I do the keyboard thing on the side of the computer with just the numbers, I do you know, look at it. But she's got it memorized, so she's just like, oh, numbers, because she does financial stuff.
Operator. Yeah, but
yeah, man, I can bust out some typing.
Yeah, I do 80 words a minute, and it was horrible when I first started working in computers as a programmer, because people would my boss would come to me and said, okay, we need you to do this. You ever done this for? I don't know that command. It's like, okay, first type this in, and I would go and I'd hit return. He's like, you hit return way too fast. It's not ready yet. I'm like, you can keep talking then, because I'll just type what you tell me. Tell me when to stop. But
yeah, I mean, my mom, and obviously my mom is 80, 81 years old now, but she was doing shorthand.
wow, that's a skill now.
Yeah, well, but to me, and I don't know how to do it, and it's not like it was something I could have learned to do in high school. They didn't teach it.
They did in my high school, just I didn't take the class.
But I think they should still probably teach shorthand just for like a semester, teach the basics. And then if the person forgets it, they forget it. They definitely need to teach cursive, and they need to teach typing. And if they're not going to teach cursive, I don't have a problem with that, but then you at least need to teach them how to sign their name in cursive. So that's the one thing they know how to do in cursive. Because I'll be honest, I don't know how to do cursive anymore. I haven't written in cursive besides signing my name, I honestly probably haven't written in cursive in 30 some years, because I print everything.
Yeah. But now cursive is like, secret code between parents so that the kids can't read what they're telling each other.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, my wife knows how to do it, but she's neat, so I can read her cursive. But I've gotten letters from relatives that are older that at Christmas time that write in cursive, and I show on the inside of a holiday card. And I remember last year it's from my aunt who is up there in age, and I showed it to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know what this says, because the cursive was so stylized. It's like my signature. If I showed you what my actual signature for banks and mortgage stuff, my legal signature looked like, you can't read it.
Oh, yeah. Mine's the same way. I developed it in high school. I start with my last name first, and I zip back and I jump back up to the other parts. And people watch me sign it like, can you do that again?
Well, that's what I was trying to tell my daughter. I'm like, look, you don't have to make something legible for your signature. Like, my rule of thumb for the signature is first letter of your first name, first letter of your last name. The rest doesn't matter. So,
That's
like,
right.
You can look at mine and go, oh, that's an A. And then there's something there. And then there's a C, because my middle name's Christopher. And then there's something. And then there's an S. And the rest is mush. So I told my daughter, I said, who cares? I said, just sit down, get some paper, and just start doing stuff until you see something you like. And once you do, just tear it out and carry it with you so you know what to do the next time.
Exactly. Harrenberg's talking about the editing. We're, spinning off of the logo thing. At Terrificon, we bought a great superhero action comic from a Boston publisher, and it wound up having over a dozen misspellings. I have that happen frequently with a lot of the crowdfunding books that I back and I pick up. And it really does take you out of the story. And even if you're a really good writer, you're so close to your writing that you'll gloss right over your own edits, because in your
you got to have, when I do stuff, once I send it to the letterer, I get it back, I send it to obviously the writer so he can read it. I send it to a third party not involved, but they're in comics, but they're just not involved with the project. So it's literally a clean read for them right out of the gate. And when I look at it, I guess I really do slow down to the point of not reading it, but just literally looking at every word. So I'm not reading a full sentence. I'm just looking at every word as its individual piece to make sure it's spelled right. Because I'll be the first to say, when it comes to like commas and periods and grammar stuff, forget it. That's why I sent it to the guy who wrote it, because he's a grammar guy. I'm a spelling guy, like, because spelling mistakes just drive me crazy. So I will just go through word by word and just double and triple check to make sure. And even like even like in a novel, if I see a word spelled wrong, I'll go back at the beginning of the paragraph and read it again, because I do have slight dyslexia. That's kind of like there's that thing where you can't just have one thing. So if you have ADD or ADHD, most of the time you'll have a little of something else. So I have slight dyslexia, and I also have a little OCD as well. So if I see a word misspelled when I'm reading a book, a novel, I'll keep going. I'll go back and read it a couple more times just to make sure it's not me. And then once I realize it's not, it does kind of drive me crazy because I'm like, even though this is like a 300-page novel, and it's the only mistake I saw. Who proofread this damn book? Come on.
Exactly. And I'm horrible at it myself. I know how to spell. I've always known how to spell, but I'll tweet something and I'll have the wrong one of the three theirs in a sentence.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I want to fix that, but it's Twitter. And they don't let you fix anything.
Well, you have to, you just like I was saying today, Dennis is going to hate this if he sees this because I'm throwing him under the bus, but he wrote a tweet right before we went on to do our show at 5:00. And I said, well, you got to fix that. And he hit the button to tweet it. And I go, what? You didn't fix that. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I said, go to your profile. So he goes, he's like, because he left the E off of a word. And I was like, it's okay, select it all. So he selected it. I said, copy it. Great. Delete the tweet. He deleted it. I said, great. Do a new tweet, paste it, pop that letter in, tweet it. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
So
I've done that before. But sometimes it's like, I don't have time. And somebody's
I'll
already
do that. Dude, I'll fix stuff in a Skype. Because in Skype, I love how you can edit your message in Skype.
Yeah.
If I see I spelled something wrong, even if it's just between me and you or, just me and one person, not in a group one, just because my OCD, I'll be like, oop, edit, fix it, whatever.
Oh, well, I think somebody could make good money hiring themselves as an editor out to to crowdfunded books saying, I will charge this much of a rate. This is, pass your scripts on to me and we'll be fair and fix everything. Maybe I'll do that. It's not like I'm not doing enough with the shipping already and everything else that we're offering.
Well, I mean, it is a good idea though. I mean, if it's getting an editor just to proofread a book, I know what one of my friends charges, and it's definitely, even with somebody with, where my campaign's at right now, I could afford to pay him to do that. It's not like super expensive if you're looking for, it's a proofreader. I like to say proofreader, not editor, because to me, an editor is like story content as well. And I look at editing more as like, oh, well, story-wise, you could do this or you could do this. But when it comes to like spelling and grammar, I'd rather call him a proofreader because, look, pal, I'm not looking for your story input. Story's done. Yeah. I just need you to proofread it, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Oh, and but differently here, though, is you really want to get a proofreader who knows how to read a comic book.
Well, yeah.
I had a graphic novel come to me from Scholastic. And I won't mention the artist's name because he's like one of the best in the industry. He and Alan Moore are the only two I know that really know how to use the medium. Oh, hell with it. I'll say it. Jimmy Gownley. He didn't do the mistake. It was, but it's because I know his work so well. And I read the book, and I was like, I got to this one part. I'm like, that's a really weird way to do a flashback. And I read the pages over again. I was like, oh, they misplaced 3 pages in the wrong order.
That's bad.
I wrote back the PR agent for Scholastic. I said, hey, this ARC copy here, you make sure you get this fixed before it goes to press, and because these are out of order. And they wrote back, said, oh, great job, thank you, we didn't notice that. And went on my day. And then I had Jimmy on the show, and we were talking about his book. And after the show was like, I was like, yeah, I got the ARC copy. And he's like, yeah, I got this ARC. There were no ARC copies. What are you talking about? It's like this hardcover here. He's like, yeah, that was the original copy. I'm like, oh, well, they corrected the pages. Like, oh, that was you. They pulped 40,000 hardcover books because it had already gone to press and nobody had caught that the pages were out of order. So
didn't he catch it?
No, because they print it and then they sent it to him. I mean, the printer literally when it went to press, it wasn't like it was printing off of a PDF file. Um,
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I will never say never, but I will almost bet if it's something I'm doing book wise, one of mine, a page would never be out of order, not story wise. Now, there might be something in the back where it's like, oh, I didn't want that extra page to go there. It was supposed to go there, but it doesn't affect story. It's just my personal, oh, this sketchbook page should have been before this one, but nobody knows. But I've never seen anything I've done that I've overseen have pages not in the right order.
Yeah, it might have been one of those things where he's like submitting chapters, submitting pages, and like.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's up the line and that happens, then it's just like, what the heck?
Yeah, because it was like a 240-page graphic novel.
Yeah,
it was thick.
Yeah.
I'm still scrolling over here so everybody can see the.
Oh yeah.
Campaign. You can do the catch-up tier, get the $35 for the first book. That's
Bart's variant cover.
That's Bart's variant cover. Okay, I got confused. I scrolled there. So Bart Sears has done a cover. You've done a cover. We were talking about logos and placement and the first third of the cover. Do they still teach the pulp method for a main character, where the diagonal cut across the cover? It needs to bisect the main character in some way, shape, or form. Because I know that used to be like a big rule, where it's like whether it's top right to bottom left or top left to bottom right, it needs to cut through the main character to make sure that he's in the right spot on the cover.
Wait, what needs to cut through the main character?
A line, an invisible line drawn from one corner to the diagonal corner needs to bisect the main character. I'm guessing they don't because.
No, I don't think so. I mean, compositionally, somebody was asking me on my channel this morning about, the golden ratio, I think it's called. And I was like, oh man, you could do that in comics for every panel, but who has the time? The easiest thing to do is to just take any panel you're drawing, doesn't matter the shape, and divide it into thirds, horizontal and vertically. And then wherever your main interest you want it to be, pop it in one of the thirds and build the panel that way. And then you could get more intricate, where it's like, okay, so I've done that. Now I'm going to take this third and divide that little portion into thirds to put more. And you can just keep doing that. But then it just gets to a point where you've been doing it so long that you can just see all that in your mind's eye and not have to do it. Because I mean, there are times when I would lay out a page, and I would after I did blocked in the panels, I would just sketch out the thirds real quickly so I could lay it out and see where I wanted stuff to go. But the biggest rule of thumb is one third of the panel is not yours, it's the letterer's.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it is. Now, in the old days, golden age, silver age of comics, and even into the 80s, it was the top third of every panel. It's not yours. That is not your territory. Don't draw on it. Don't draw anything important in it. Obviously draw backgrounds, but nothing important. But, now it's pretty much, when I design a page, since most of the stuff I work from is full script, or with this, I know what a lot of the dialogue is going to be or how much there's going to be. I'll design the composition in each panel with dialogue meant to be in a certain place. It's kind of a neat test, because before, when I didn't know who the letterer was, sometimes I would circle in where I'd want the word balloon to go. And this is back when balloons were lettered on the page. And then the editor would get the pages, and if they agreed with me, an editor would take their a blue pencil and circle it when they send it to the letterer. And if if the artist doesn't do that, because it's not like we had to do that, the editor would just get the pages, circle with the blue pencil. They do balloon placement, send it to the letterer. But now with everything being digital, I could do that, but because I trust my letterer so much, I don't do anything because I have a good sense of where I want everything to go. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, when I get the pages back from my letterer, I mean, this is a professional of 30 years as well, lettering comics. He's nailed it in every panel. You know, there's only a few times where I'm like, push this balloon here or nudge it here. That's not where I meant it to go. But 9 times out of 10, man, he just nails it because I'm thinking of it when I compose the panel. And I'm just not like, let me fill up every space. Who cares?
And of course, with the Brian Michael Bendis book, of course, it's just word balloons all over the place. Doesn't matter where you draw anything.
Well, yeah. But, you know, I worked with Chris Claremont on 2 issues of X-Men Forever. And Chris has been known to be wordy. And he likes to write old school plot style, Marvel style, where it's just a description of a paragraph for each page. And it's up to me as the artist to figure out how many panels I put on that page, you know? And then he gets the art back and does the dialogue going by what I drew, you know? And even plot style, they give a little indication like, oh, Cyclops is yelling at, you know, Storm. But that might be all he says. But still, even on those 2 issues of X-Men Forever, I was pleasantly surprised with how it came out and how Chris scripted over my pencils and how I still ended up. Either he was being respectful going, oh, I don't want to cover up too much, or I left just the right amount for him to do the dialogue to where not a lot of stuff got covered up that wasn't meant to be. So,
yeah. Blues Lobster wants to know if Andy can Andy help me get abs like First Man? Yes, he can. Get with him on commission rates, send a face.
That's right.
He'll draw the abs just like he did on First Man there.
I will. I can give you some diet tips that I should probably follow to get at. See, the funny thing is I know how to eat to look like that because I do work out, but I just don't have the discipline to do it.
I have, I'm you know, this is a sedentary job. My day job's a sedentary job. I get up from this bed right here. I sit down at this desk for 8 hours. I go to that pantry to get food at lunch and dinner, and I sit back down here at night and I do this, and I prepare for the next one. So I've been doing this for like 5 months, and I went for my physical because I'm old, Andy. I take blood pressure medication, and the doctor, you know, had to see me again to re-prescribe it. And in the last 6 months since I'd last seen him, somewhere or other 20 pounds snuck up on me. I'm like,
yeah,
it's like sticker shock. I'm like, okay, salads. Just gonna eat a lot of salads from now on for a while. A little bit of protein here and there, but man, I was eating everything non-refrigerable, so it was like all.
Oh yeah.
All you know, peel and eat, heat, peel and heat.
Yeah.
And eat.
Yeah.
Not good stuff. I didn't realize how bad that was for you as a regular diet.
Yeah.
So I need a workout program. So Penumbra is sticking around. On Earth.
Nope, she's not on Earth. Probably shouldn't have said that, but that's okay.
She can come and go as she pleases. It's a comic.
She could, yeah, but she's not. So going back to my original designs, when I redid Volume 1 and added to it, one of the things I really wanted to do was use the very first design I ever drew as First Man, or Apollo, because it wasn't First Man when I was a kid, it was Apollo. And, you know, I designed it when I was like 15 years old, and I still had the drawing and everything. So I thought of a cool way to be able to work it in the story. So that is literally the costume of Apollo and Penumbra from, you know, when I was like 15 or so. So, and then when I decided to do the whole First Man thing, I said, oh, let me change this and update it some. And that's where he has the, you know, how First Man looks, because they are now 2 different people. Whereas as a kid, there was never the 2 separate. It was just the one.
Yeah.
So.
Now, since he's a kid that turns into this big hulking guy, what's the need for the mask? Or is it a mask?
It's not a mask. That's just it. It's not a costume.
Oh.
Like, that's not First Man. That's Apollo.
No,
First Man's
the here, but I mean on the covers. I'm pointing to my screen like y'all can see my hand.
Yeah. No, I know. It's because that's what's on the screen we're looking at. I just want to be clear. No, it's not a mask. It's not a costume.
Yeah. Okay. So here's
it's not a costume. That's
So
just
that's
it.
like his whole body. That's him.
Yeah. There's no taking that off because
He's
he
naked.
physically changes. So it's not like he physically changes from 5'10", 145 to 7 foot, 280 and goes, let me go get my costume out of the closet that I can fit into now.
Yeah.
No, he changes from plain clothes, ordinary guy into that. Now, I mean, if he wanted to, he could go to a big and tall men's shop and buy clothes to wear wherever Shaq shops, but his face would still look like that underneath the suit. His hands would still look chrome underneath the suit. You know, he can't take that stuff off.
Yeah, he'd have to get like makeup and just like, you know, if he
Right.
wanted to pass.
Yeah. So no, that's not a costume. Whereas Apollo and Penumbra, those are both clothes, basically. When they're homeworld, they dress in other things as well.
I do like him arriving home. Said, "Hey, Dad, I'm back. Hey, you don't have to trim those hedges. Let me do that for you with a little bit of, you know."
Yeah, and then he screws it up and he lights them on fire. And this is where I like the little bit of humor where his dad's like, "Man, I don't give a crap if you're 7 feet tall or 5'10". You get your ass in the house and go to your room, dude. You don't light my shit on fire."
and you can see, you know, here's the transformations is simple when it's not, you know, a thunder of lightning, which I always thought drew a lot of attention for both Thor and Captain Marvel.
Yeah, no, that's just he just changes back. I mean, his dad's also not too thrilled, and this is all in the dialogue, of course. But his dad's also not too thrilled with the fact that he's landing in the front yard like that, and it's like, seriously, you couldn't do that and then walk home, you lazy bastard. It's a good thing it's the middle of the day and I'm retired and all our neighbors are at work because how do I explain this? Come on.
Yeah. Everybody just, you know, you made us all targets now.
Right.
Yeah. The only silent transformation character I can think of was the Fly. And that goes way back to the old Red Circle days.
Oh, I love that stuff. Love that. I love that character, by the way.
Do you remember when he was still a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, because like a lot of the Red Circle books, the modern ones, he's grown up and he still turns into the Fly, and there's Fly Girl with him. But yeah, I love.
No, I've got the reprint of the stuff from the 50s and stuff that came out, the trade paperback.
Oh, that was good stuff.
You know, that was Neil Adams' first published work, right, in comics?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, he drew in the Fly. Because those comics aren't that expensive, except for that issue. Because I think it's number 4, and he took samples up to whatever the publisher was. Red Circle. I don't know who the publisher. What's that?
It was Archie.
It was Archie even back then.
Yeah, it was Red Circle.
So he took the samples up, and they were like, "Yeah, you're not really there," but he did this one horizontal panel at the bottom of the page where it's a transformation panel of the kid changing into the Fly going left to right. And the final shot, and it's just from waist up, but in the final shot is him with his arms like, you know, the hero thing as the Fly. And they were like, but we like that. We'll use that. So you use that one panel.
Wow. You're the first I've run into who remembers the Fly, actually. So
yeah. And that issue right now on eBay, because I keep an eye out for it. It's not near mint condition. It's like $150. And I'm like, nope, I got the reprint, but I would like to own the actual issue. So,
all right. So, Blues Lobster, by the way, here's your option here. Become a character, $400. You'll
one's gone. Ads. So basically the first one of that, because I only did one, it got snapped up. So I added 3 more. And the way I'm going to lay out the page, because I talked to the writer and I said, look, the first one got snapped up. I want to add 3 more, and this is what I'm thinking. So it's going to be picture the page with 4 panels going across the top of the page, all equal size, so vertical panels. Each panel is going to have a close-up of whatever person does that tier. And then each panel, the person will have their own word balloon. And then the second half of the page is going to be basically them watching a fight between First Man and, you know, the villain of the book.
It's
so they're going to get a nice close up on the page so they can show their friends, and they each get 4 copies of the book as well. Oh. So it's not just you get drawn in the book and you get 1 copy. For that level, you get 4 copies and drawn into the book. So
I find that so challenging to do that and not take the reader out of the book. And by that, what I mean is I've seen several, because this is a very popular kind of tier for campaigns. And I've seen all these books where it's like, this fluid, cartoony, superhero action, and then there's a crowd scene, and it's like, boom, completely different style because you're doing portraiture now.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends, and I agree, depending on the artist's style.
Yes.
I think it works for me because, like, that example I show isn't from First Man 1. It's from another book I did, creator-owned book I did, one of the other campaigns. And it's a superhero book, and that's a middle panel that goes all the way across. And on the right-hand side of the panel, the dude's basically looking out his apartment window at what's happening outside, and he's commenting on it. And but it fits my style, so I can get I agree. I mean, if you draw like Garfield, next thing you know, you've got a realistic looking person. It's weird, but if you can cartoon it like Mort Drucker, in Mad Magazine, or Tom Richmond, who basically is Mort Drucker these days, fantastic artist. If you can cartoon it and still make it look like that person in your style, that's all that matters.
That's the real trick, because a lot of the time you see it, and you can tell that they're drawing from the photo that was submitted, because there's just this posed quality about it. But this goes back for me as far back as Superboy meeting John F. Kennedy. I'm like, that's Superboy, yeah, that's John F. Kennedy, and they just don't belong in that same panel together. It just loses the dynamic aspect of the characters. Sometimes it's perfectly, it fits. I think the Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton talking at Superman's funeral, they sort of blended right into the rest of the book, the characters. I think anytime they brought the DC editors in to be in a crowd scene, that also worked, because they probably drew each other so often that they became sort of characters anyway. They knew how to cartoonify them. You can get a single figure commission for $200, which is a great deal.
And they pick the character, so it's up to them who they want me to draw.
So it doesn't even have to be a first man character, although you would want.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
They pick it. If they don't pick the character, then the chance is it'll be first man or Penumbra, depending on who I feel like that day. So sure. I will say that if you don't pick it, I'm not just going to be like, I'm going to draw a Marvel or DC guy. No, I'm going to draw one of mine. So
7x10. So that's basically a board, a backing board.
Yeah, but it's on actual Bristol board paper, though. It's not on a backing board. But I did it that size so it fits in.
Yeah,
the Gemini and the bag and everything with the book.
That's the real key to everything, is to get it to fit that Gemini now, because you get a lot of these 11x17 prints now that come out, or not whatever, smaller than that but bigger than the comic book.
Yeah,
and the edges are they curl up a little bit because it's just a little wider than that Gemini, and you're like, I'll just curl it a little bit. It stays that way unless you flatten it back out, folks. So I think we've covered everything on here. I mean, it's you got your head sketch commission for $100. Obviously a Kirby fan.
Well, that's whoever picked that character. Yep, because those were commissions, or those were sketch tiers I did. Somebody wanted the Thing, Mr. Miracle, Giant Man. I think it's Giant Man, and that chick's from the Legion. I think. Okay. Can't remember her name.
I don't remember her from the Legion either, but
I'm pretty sure she is, because she was one that I was like, man, I don't know who that is, but hey, that's what you want. So
I had to look them up. But I just, the Kirby Crackle and then Mr. Miracle and the Thing, I'm like, oh, he's doing a whole thing of Kirby characters there. So yeah, this looks cool. Again, I love the idea of the kid who's still learning his way as a huge muscular superhero. I want to get up here and reload the page just to see if I was able to help you out any at all, because sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. You may have just wasted 90 minutes of your life being here. Did it move at all?
You did.
No.
Look at that. You moved the needle big.
I moved the
So-
needle. That Andy is what we call our shake and bake moment here on the show.
Now, now I'm only 134 if my math is correct from that
Oh yeah.
next stretch goal. So
134. So this is it. Right
It's
here.
shake and bake, and I help.
there you go.
Oh, I love it when I get to click on that and play that, because that means, you know, that one of our loving guests in the chat has backed the book. Somebody may have just walked into Indiegogo and saw it. I'm claiming the credit. It happened during
No,
the show.
man, you take the credit. You take it.
All right. Andy, thank you so much for bringing First Man to our channel tonight. I really do appreciate you coming on here, because
Yeah, man.
without the guests, it's just me talking into a camera, and nobody wants to see that. I also like to thank all our guests for showing up tonight in the chat. Without you, we really don't have a show. I want to encourage you to click the link. It's right below. It will take you to the campaign. Pick the tier that you think speaks to you. And I ask you to share the video. Don't ask you to like it. If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's okay. Don't fake it. Please don't ever fake it with me. But do share it so that First Man can get in front of more eyeballs, the eyeballs of your social circles. And if then they share it, it gets in front of their social circles. Yeah, that's easy for you to say.
That's right.
And that's how the whole ripple effect works, and things get spread around. And beyond that, as always, folks, we just hope that while you were here, you had a blast. Good night.